Sir, this is a sword. Swords don't sing. That's not a defect. Lydia Hartwell said this with the practiced calm of someone who'd once explained to a customer why they couldn't return a half-eaten rotisserie chicken. The 7-foot insectoid warrior across the counter was not having it. On my world, all weapons sing when wielded by true warriors. Commander Vex slammed his clawed hand on the returns counter, mandibles clicking with fury. That's great, Lydia said, pulling up his purchase history on her datapad. But according to your receipt, you bought this 6 months ago. Return policy clearly states 30 days. The Galactic Equipment Depot was having what Lydia would later describe as a normal Tuesday. She'd worked there for 6 months, long enough to know that aliens got just as upset about return policies as humans did. Before this, she'd managed retail in Ohio for 8 years. Survived Black Friday 2031, the one with the waffle iron incident. Space was honestly easier, until today. Commander Vex leaned over the counter. 7 feet of chitinous armor, compound eyes, mandibles that clicked when he was annoyed, which was always. He carried a ceremonial sword, ornate handle, blade gleaming under the depot's fluorescent lights. This weapon is defective, Vex announced, slamming it on the counter. Lydia didn't flinch. She'd been slammed it by better. What seems to be the problem? She asked, pulling up his purchase history. It does not sing in battle. Lydia looked at the sword, looked at Vex, looked back at the sword. Sir, this is a sword. Swords don't sing. That's not a defect. That's physics. Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly, the insectoid equivalent of sputtering indignation. On my world, all weapons sing when wielded by true warriors. That's great, Lydia said flatly. But according to the manufacturer specifications, this model doesn't include audio features. It's a blade. It cuts things. That's the whole job description. Are you saying I am not a true warrior? I'm saying you bought a sword 6 months ago. She tapped her datapad. Return policy clearly states 30 days, original packaging, no refunds after that. Original packaging? Vex's voice rose. It is a sword. There is no packaging. Then you should have kept the box. Are you questioning my honor? Lydia had dealt with Karens, Kens, and that one guy who'd tried to return a Christmas tree in February. An offended insectoid warrior was just Tuesday. I'm questioning your reading comprehension, she said, pointing at the sign above her head. No. Refunds after 30 days. Vex leaned over the counter, trying to use his height advantage. Lydia had grown immune to intimidation sometime around 2029. Then you will demonstrate that this weapon functions as designed. I'm customer service, not a product tester. You will demonstrate, or I will file a formal complaint with station management. Lydia sighed. She'd already filed her quarterly reports. She really didn't want to deal with more paperwork. Fine. She picked up the sword. It was heavier than she expected. Good balance, though. The handle had that grippy texture that suggested someone had actually thought about ergonomics. She'd taken fencing in college. 1 semester, hated every minute. The instructor was pretentious. The other students were worse, and she'd spent most of the class wishing she was anywhere else. But she remembered some of it. She did a practice swing. Basic form, nothing fancy. The blade started glowing, faintly at first. Blue-white light emanating from the metal itself. Huh, Lydia said. That's new. She swung again. The glow intensified. The entire depot went quiet. Every customer, every worker, every passing maintenance drone, all stopped and stared. Vex's mandibles froze mid-click. The blade accepts her. It's probably just a short circuit, Lydia said, examining the sword. These things have power cores, right? Maybe it got jostled during shipping. She tried to hand it back to Vex. He reached for it. The moment his clawed hand touched the blade, he screamed. Actually screamed. A high-pitched chittering that Lydia's translator struggled to process. Vex yanked his hand back, cradling it against his chest. The chitin was blackened, smoking slightly. The sword had burned him. Okay, Lydia said, still holding the now very glowy sword. Is this going on my employee review? Because I feel like this is going on my employee review. Other warriors in the depot. There were always warriors hanging around, comparing weapons like suburban dads compared grills. Started backing away. One whispered, "The Chosen One." Lydia's translator caught it. "The Chosen what now?" Vex dropped to his knees. All 6 legs folded beneath him, in what Lydia assumed was a gesture of respect or possibly a panic response. "Forgive me, Blade Blessed," Vex said, voice trembling. "I did not know." "I'm not Blade Blessed," Lydia said. "I'm customer service." More warriors were arriving now. Word spread fast on a space station, especially when something weird happened. And apparently, a human retail worker making a sword glow qualified as weird. They crowded the entrance, staring. Some had their own weapons drawn, but none were pointing them at her. They just stared. Lydia tried to set the sword down on the counter. It wouldn't leave her hand. Not stuck, exactly. She could move her fingers. But when she tried to put it down, her hand just kept holding it. Like her muscles had decided they were keeping this sword whether her brain agreed or not. "Okay," she said slowly. "This is now a workplace safety issue." Station security arrived. 3 heavily armed officers in riot gear, weapons charged and ready. "Ma'am," the lead officer said through his helmet speaker, "we're going to need you to put down the blade." "I'm trying," Lydia said. "It's not cooperating." One of Vex's warriors, a younger male, less armored, took one look at Lydia, holding the glowing sword, and dropped his weapon. Just dropped it, and ran. Then another warrior did the same, then another. Within 30 seconds, every warrior in the depot had abandoned their weapons and fled into the corridor. Lydia stood alone behind the counter, holding a glowing sword she couldn't put down, surrounded by abandoned alien weapons. "I didn't even do anything," she said to no one in particular. The security officers looked at each other, looked at her, looked at the sword. "Ma'am," the lead officer said carefully, "we're going to need you to come with us." "Can I clock out first?" "No." "Is this overtime?" Before anyone could answer, the station's PA system crackled to life. A voice, calm, official, the kind that announced everything from birthday parties to reactor meltdowns in the same tone, spoke in Galactic standard. "Code Starfire. Repeat, Code Starfire. The Blade of Ascension has chosen a bearer. All military personnel report to command immediately. Civilians, please remain calm and prepare for regime change." Lydia blinked. Regime change? The security officers were already backing away. "Ma'am," the lead officer said, voice now filled with something that might have been reverence or might have been terror. "You need to come with us. Now." "I still need to clock out." "The Blade of Ascension doesn't clock out." "Well, I do. I get written up if I don't log my hours." The officer stared at her. The sword glowed brighter. "Ma'am, you're holding the most sacred weapon in the Krovar Alliance. You've just been declared Supreme Commander of 3 galactic empires." Lydia looked at the sword, looked at the officer, looked at the abandoned returns counter where Commander Vex's purchase receipt was still printing. "Can I at least finish processing this return first?" she asked. Nobody answered. The sword pulsed with light. Somewhere deep in the station, alarms started blaring, and Lydia Hartwell, who'd survived retail management, Black Friday, and 1 semester of fencing, realized her shift was about to get significantly more complicated. Security escorted Lydia to the station command center. She was still holding the sword. She'd tried leaving it in her locker. Physically set it down, closed the door, walked away. Made it 10 feet before her hand felt weird. Looked down. Sword was back. "This is a hostile work environment," she muttered. The command center was packed. Officers from at least a dozen species, all wearing enough medals to start a scrap metal business. Holographic displays everywhere showing star maps, fleet positions, and what looked like a countdown to something Lydia probably didn't want to know about. At the center of it all, Admiral Creeth. The station commander was amphibious. Think frog meets dolphin meets someone who'd had a very long day. Her skin shifted colors when stressed, currently cycling through shades of purple that Lydia's translator unhelpfully labeled as bureaucratic panic. "Do you know what you've done?" Creeth asked. "Tried to process a return?" That sword has been dormant for 3,000 years. Lydia looked at the still glowing blade. Should have mentioned that on the inventory sheet. It's the Blade of Ascension, another officer said. A reptilian with too many teeth and not enough patience. It only activates for the prophesied warrior leader who will unite the fractured empires. I'm from accounting, Lydia said. I don't unite anything except spreadsheets. The blade has chosen, Kreith said, her skin now approaching ultraviolet. You are, legally and spiritually, Supreme Commander of the Krovar Alliance. Lydia blinked. I decline. You can't decline. Sure I can. I decline all the time. Jury duty, timeshare presentations, this. It's a religious prophecy spanning 3,000 years and 17 star systems. I'm an atheist. That's irrelevant. It's extremely relevant. I don't believe in prophecies, or destiny, or leadership positions I didn't apply for. Lydia gestured with the sword. Several officers flinched. Look, I appreciate the offer, but I have a lease and a dental appointment next week. Can someone else do this? The blade burns anyone else who touches it, Kreith said. Have you tried turning it off and on again? The silence that followed suggested they had not, in fact, tried that. We need to perform the ceremony of acceptance, a third officer said. Some kind of gaseous being contained in what looked like a very stressed snow globe. Ancient tradition demands it. I demand to go home, Lydia countered. She did not go home. 2 hours later, she was being dressed in ceremonial armor. It didn't fit. The beings who'd designed it apparently thought humans were shaped differently. The chest plate dug into her shoulders. The leg guards kept sliding down. The helmet, which she'd refused to wear, sat on a table looking judgmental. This is a workplace safety violation, Lydia said. It is an honor, the armor attendant insisted. A small, fluffy creature who kept making distressed noises while adjusting straps. It's uncomfortable. There's a difference. Dozens of warrior delegations had arrived. The station's main assembly hall was packed with species Lydia couldn't name, wearing uniforms she didn't recognize, carrying weapons that probably violated several treaties. The ceremony began. It was elaborate, formal, translated simultaneously into 16 languages, which meant 16 voices echoing through Lydia's earpiece at once. She was supposed to raise the blade and declare her intent to lead the Krovar Alliance into a new era of unity and strength. Lydia raised the sword. I, Lydia Hartwell, accept this sword and promise to, lead you guys to whatever. Can I go home now? The blade flared, not just glowed, flared. Like someone had pointed a spotlight at the sun and asked it to try harder. Every weapon in the room responded. Swords, rifles, ceremonial spears, all glowing in. Perfect synchronization. Warriors from every species dropped to one knee, except the humans. There were maybe 15 humans scattered through the crowd, station workers mostly. They looked around, confused, clearly wondering if they'd missed a memo. A janitor in the back raised his hand. Is this a staff meeting? Nobody told me about a staff meeting. I have the same question, Lydia said. The ceremony continued despite her objections. There were oaths, declarations. Someone presented her with a holographic crown that she immediately dismissed because, I'm not wearing that, I'll look ridiculous. Admiral Kreith approached afterward, skin now a resigned gray. You are formally recognized as Blade Bearer and Supreme Commander. Can I at least finish my shift? Your shift is now commanding the Alliance. I didn't agree to that promotion. The blade agreed for you. Lydia glared at the sword. It pulsed cheerfully. The xenobiology team arrived next, led by Dr. Thane, a crystalline being who looked like someone had taught a chandelier to be anxious. His facets refracted light in every direction, making him hard to look at directly. We need to understand the selection criteria, Thane announced, practically vibrating with scientific enthusiasm. It picked wrong, Lydia said. That's the criteria. They ran tests, strength assessment, below average for warrior species, about average for humans, which apparently wasn't impressive. Speed test, mediocre. Combat training, I took one fencing class in college and quit after 3 weeks. Thane's facets dimmed with confusion. Why would the blade choose you? Maybe it's broken? The Blade of Ascension cannot break. It is forged from starfire and ancient oaths. Cool. Still think it's broken. They tested the sword's rejection burn on volunteers. A Relaxi warrior tried to touch it. Burned. An avian priestess tried. Burned. Even Commander Vex tried again, hoping his earlier burn was a fluke. Still burned. They brought in other humans. A maintenance worker named Gary volunteered. How bad could it be? Pretty bad. He touched the blade and immediately yanked his hand back, swearing in 3 languages. They tried 12 more humans. Same result every time. Dr. Thane's lights flickered rapidly. It has specifically chosen this human. But why? This is discrimination, Lydia said. I should file an HR complaint. There is no HR department for ancient prophecies. There should be. Lydia was finally released back to her quarters around midnight. She was exhausted. The sword was not. It kept glowing, pulsing softly, lighting up her entire room like the world's worst nightlight. You're going in the bathroom, Lydia told it. She set it on the bathroom counter, closed the door. The glow seeped under the doorframe. You're the worst roommate I've ever had. She made a sandwich, sat on her bunk, tried to pretend today hadn't happened. Then her door chime rang. Admiral Creeth appeared on the screen. We have a situation. Is it more prophecy stuff? Because I'm off the clock. 3 war fleets just entered the sector. Lydia took a bite of her sandwich. And? They're from rival empires, all claiming the Blade of Ascension belongs to their faction. They're demanding you choose a side. I choose sandwich. This is not a joke. I'm not joking. I'm eating. There's a difference. They've issued an ultimatum. You have 6 hours to declare allegiance or they'll consider it an act of war. Lydia looked at her sandwich. Looked at the bathroom door, under which the sword glowed ominously. Looked back at Creeth's stressed face on the screen. Can they wait until morning? I've had a really long day. No! Then I'm going with war. At least I can sleep through that. She closed the comm channel. The sword's glow intensified. You're still not coming out of the bathroom, Lydia told it. Somewhere in the station's docking bay, 3 massive fleets were taking position. In her quarters, Lydia finished her sandwich and wondered if her employee benefits covered intergalactic incidents. Probably not. The conference room was too small for this many egos. 3 Empire representatives had arrived, each with an entourage that made the station's meeting space feel like a crowded elevator. Chancellor Morvik represented the Draconis Collective. Reptilian, 6.5 feet of scales and ambition wrapped in ceremonial robes that probably cost more than Lydia's annual salary. He kept eyeing the sword like it was a promotion he deserved. High Priestess Yara spoke for the divine ascendancy. Avian, feathers that shimmered with bioluminescence, eyes that saw prophecy in everything including, probably, the cafeteria menu. She looked at Lydia like she was a holy relic that needed proper storage. General Thex commanded the Iron Sovereignty. Armored quadruped, built like a tank, had achieved sentience and decided to major in violence. He looked at everyone like they were targets. Lydia sat at the conference table, the Blade of Ascension leaning against her chair like an uninvited co-worker. Look, she said. I don't want to join anyone's empire. I want to go back to processing returns. The Blade has chosen you as leader. Morvik's forked tongue flickered. You must lead. I'm leading myself to lunch. Anyone else coming? The silence suggested this was not the response they'd expected. Yara's feathers ruffled. This is sacred destiny. This is a Tuesday. You dare mock the prophecy? Thex's voice was like gravel in a blender. I'm not mocking anything. I'm just explaining that I have a 2 p.m. and I'd like to make it. Thex stood, all 4 legs planting with the kind of weight meant to intimidate. He was big, armored, covered in scars that told stories Lydia didn't want to hear. She'd survived retail. She'd dealt with the Christmas rush. She'd once mediated a dispute between 2 customers fighting over the last discounted television. an angry space rhino. Didn't even crack her top 10. "Are you done?" she asked. "Because I really do have a 2 p.m. Thex drew his weapon. A massive plasma blade, crackling with energy, definitely against station regulations about weapons in conference rooms. The Blade of Ascension flared. Not pulsed, not glowed. Flared. Like someone had opened a portal to a star. Thex's weapon melted. Actually melted, plasma core and all, dripping through his armored grip like wax. He screamed, dropped what was left, stumbled backward. Everyone else in the room backed away from Lydia. She looked at the sword, looked at the smoking remains of Thex's weapon, looked back at the terrified representatives. "I didn't do that," she said. "The sword did that. I'm just holding it." Nobody seemed to believe her. News traveled fast. By evening, every communication channel was running the same story. Bladebearer destroys enemy weapon with a thought. It wasn't a thought, Lydia told Admiral Kreeth for the 15th time. The sword just reacted. "The optics don't matter," Kreeth said, skin cycling through stress colors like a mood ring having a breakdown. "What matters is that every military power in 3 sectors now thinks you can disintegrate weapons at will." Military delegations started arriving. Not 3, not 5, dozens. All of them swearing allegiance, pledging their fleets, offering warriors, resources, planets. Lydia was trying to fill out her timesheet. "I didn't ask for this," she said, staring at the growing line of representatives outside her office, the depot's storage closet, hastily repurposed. "I didn't apply for this position." "You don't apply for destiny," Kreeth said. "You apply for every job. That's how employment works. You submit a resume. You do an interview. You negotiate benefits. You don't just get declared Supreme Commander because you picked up the wrong sword." "It wasn't the wrong sword. It was the sword. It was a sword that I was trying to return." Not everyone accepted the new order. The Iron Sovereignty, insulted by Thex's humiliation, sent an assassination squad. 12 elite warriors. Infiltrated the station through a cargo bay. Made it all the way to the depot where Lydia had stubbornly returned to work, sword in hand, because it wouldn't stay anywhere else. They cornered her in the returns section. "Surrender the blade or die," their leader said. Lydia looked up from the return she was processing. A malfunctioning plasma rifle that someone had clearly tried to fix with a hammer. "Can you guys just... not? I'm having a day." They attacked. The sword moved, not Lydia moving it. The sword moving, pulling her arm with it like she was a puppet, and it had just remembered it knew martial arts. It parried the first strike, disarmed the second attacker. The third warrior's blade came too close. The sword flared, burned his hand. He dropped his weapon and ran. The others followed the same pattern. Attack, get disarmed, get burned if they got too close. Flee in terror. Lydia just stood there, arm moving on its own, feeling like a character in a video game someone else was playing. "This is so weird," she muttered. 8 minutes later, she was alone again, surrounded by abandoned weapons and the half-processed plasma rifle return. She picked up her datapad, marked the assassination attempt as workplace disruption. Clocked the time. 6 minutes. Rounded up to 15 for hazard pay purposes. The station council convened that night. Emergency session. Every representative from every major faction. "The 3 empires can't agree on custody of the Bladebearer," Admiral Kreeth announced. "We propose a 4th option, form a new alliance, led by the Bladebearer herself." "No," Lydia said from the back of the room. "You don't get a vote." "It's my job we're discussing. I should get all the votes." "The Blade has chosen. The Blade is a piece of metal with a bad attitude and no sense of boundaries." They ignored her objections, held the vote, created the unified command, a new alliance spanning the territories of all 3 former rivals. Supreme Commander, Lydia Hartwell. She was still wearing her depot uniform. "I don't want to be Supreme Commander." A council member, some kind of floating jellyfish in a containment suit, drifted closer. "What do you want?" Lydia thought about it. "I want my dental benefits to cover the good fillings. I want my PTO request approved. I've been trying to take a week off for 6 months. I want the break room vending machine to stop eating my money." The council stared. "Those are Very modest demands, the jellyfish said, for a galactic leader. I'm not a galactic leader, I'm a clerk. You're the blade bearer. That's a side gig I didn't ask for. They brought in a throne. Literal throne. Gold, ornate, covered in engravings that probably told important historical stories, but mostly just looked uncomfortable. Sit, Kreith commanded. No. Please. Still no. We spent 6 hours moving this thing here. Lydia sighed. Sat. The blade glowed brighter. Of course it did. Every warrior in the room, regardless of species or faction, dropped to one knee. The humans in the crowd, there were more now, brought in for staff positions, looked around confused, but figured this was some kind of cultural thing and didn't participate. If I accept this job, Lydia said slowly, do I get a raise? You get command of 300 ships, thousands of warriors, and the combined resources of multiple star systems, Kreith said. So that's a no on the raise? You're Supreme Commander. You set your own salary. Oh, then yes, I accept. Also, I'm giving everyone in the depot a raise. Hazard pays a joke considering what we deal with. The council exchanged glances. Is she negotiating? Someone whispered. I think she's managing, another replied. Lydia stood from the throne. Right. First order of business. Can someone order lunch? I'm starving. Silence. That's, Kreith started. I'm serious. I haven't eaten since breakfast. You want me to command things? I need food first. More silence. Then a warrior, one of the newly pledged ones, rushed out of the room, returned 15 minutes later with a full meal. 3 courses. Garnishes Lydia didn't recognize but appreciated. Set it before her like an offering. Your sustenance, Supreme Commander. Lydia looked at the meal, looked at the warrior, looked at Kreith. They're treating lunch like a tactical order, she said. You're Supreme Commander. Everything you say is a tactical order now. I just wanted a sandwich. You've been given a feast. Lydia sat back down, started eating. The council watched like she was performing surgery. You can all leave, she said between bites. I'll let you know when I'm done. They left. All of them. Lydia sat alone in the council chamber, eating space cuisine she didn't order, in a throne she didn't want, with a sword she couldn't return. Somewhere in orbit, 300 ships aligned into formation under her banner. Somewhere in the galaxy, people were already writing songs about the blade bearer who united the empires. And Lydia just wanted her dental coverage upgraded. The sword pulsed. You're still not getting a tip, she told it. Lydia ran the unified command like she'd run the electronics department at a big box store. First order, break schedules. You can't fight 12-hour shifts, she announced at the first military briefing. Labor laws exist. The warriors stared at her. What are labor laws? A Relaxi commander asked. Rules that prevent employers from working people to death. You get breaks, meal periods, reasonable hours. But we are warriors. You're employees. Act like it. She implemented performance reviews. Actual written evaluations with clear metrics and development goals. If you're going to threaten rival empires, you need clear objectives. What are you trying to achieve? How will you measure success? What's your timeline? The military officers looked like she'd asked them to explain quantum mechanics in interpretive dance. She instituted office hours, posted a schedule outside her office, still the converted storage closet she'd refused the fancy one, with time slots. Don't just show up at my quarters at midnight. Make an appointment. Use the booking system. We have a booking system? Admiral Kreith asked. You do now. I made it in a spreadsheet. The strange part? It worked. Morale improved. Coordination got better. The number of glory-seeking solo missions that got everyone killed dropped to 0 because Lydia instituted a proposal review process. Turns out treating people like employees instead of cannon fodder actually improved their performance. Who knew? Dr. Thane figured it out 3 months in. He burst into Lydia's office, all his crystalline facets blazing with excitement. I understand now. Good for you. Make an appointment next time. The blade doesn't choose warriors. It chooses managers. Lydia looked up from the budget report she was reviewing. What? The prophecy was mistranslated. Thane pulled up holographic text, ancient script that shifted and reformed. Original text, one who can coordinate many to achieve singular purpose. It got translated as, Great Warrior who commands armies. Same concept, different execution. So I'm qualified because I survived retail management? Essentially, yes. The Blade seeks high emotional intelligence and organizational skills. You have both. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And yet, Thane gestured at the thriving alliance visible through her office window. It's working. Lydia couldn't argue with that. 6 months later, the Unified Command was the most stable alliance in the sector. Lydia was still Supreme Commander. Still wore her depot uniform under the ceremonial robes because the robes have terrible pocket space. She'd reformed 3 warring empires not through combat, but through meetings. Endless, boring, extraordinarily productive meetings. Warriors who'd expected glory and conquest found themselves assigned to logistics. You can't have a war without supply lines, Lydia explained to a particularly disappointed Relaxi captain. Someone's gotta do inventory. Congratulations, it's you. The galaxy was confused, but peaceful. Other humans started getting recruited for leadership positions across multiple factions. Turned out humans were excellent at middle management. How did your species develop these skills? Kreith asked one day, genuinely curious. Customer service, retail, fast food, soul-crushing jobs that teach you how to manage chaos without having a breakdown. Kreith's skin went pale. Your world sounds terrifying. Yeah, Lydia said. Space is way easier. She tried one more time to return the sword. Went back to the original depot during her lunch break. Set it on the counter. The new clerk, a nervous Quillix who'd transferred in from shipping, stared at her. I'd like to process a return, Lydia said. Do you have a receipt? The sword stayed on the counter. Didn't glow. Didn't burn anyone. Just sat there like a normal sword. Lydia walked away. 10 steps, 20, 30, made it all the way to the exit. Felt something in her hand. The sword was back. Oh, come on! She returned to her office. Admiral Kreith was waiting, holding a datapad. Accept your destiny? Lydia set the sword in the corner. I accepted a job. There's a difference. The sword glowed faintly. She ignored it. I need you to approve my expense report. Kreith blinked. You just reformed 3 empires. And I still need my parking validated. Galactic news broadcast that evening. Supreme Commander Hartwell has instituted mandatory conflict resolution training for all warrior castes. Casualties down 94% across all territories. Morale up, productivity up, alliance stability unprecedented. In the command center, a junior officer asked, How did humans conquer the galaxy? Another responded, They didn't conquer, they managed. That's somehow worse, Lydia overheard from her office. I'm not managing a galaxy. I'm managing a very large team. There's a difference. The sword glowed in what might have been agreement. She glared at it. You're not helping. 3 sectors away, a human IT specialist named Kevin accidentally got crowned Emperor of a merchant guild after he fixed their scheduling software and made it actually usable for once. In the ancient archives, researchers found 15 more prophesied blades waiting for bearers. The Galactic Council quietly started hiring human middle managers. Just in case. Lydia submitted her timesheet at the end of the day. 42 hours, 3 of them overtime. The sword leaned in the corner, glowing softly. She'd tried returning it 17 times. It came back every time. You know what? She told it. Fine, you can stay. But you're getting your own performance review next quarter. The sword pulsed. She took that as agreement. Outside her window, 300 ships maintained perfect formation. Inside her office, Lydia Hartwell, former retail manager, current Supreme Commander, reluctant blade bearer, updated her calendar for tomorrow's meetings. Some things never changed, even in space.